the Sharpeville massacre has been declared an international day for the elimination of racism and all forms of intolerance. And this is, of course, internationally recognized the world over. But for more on what's to be expected and, of course, the international recognition of this day, we move now to Sharpeville, where SABC's News International editor, Sophie Mokoena, is. Sophie, good morning. So, of course, tomorrow is a public holiday, Human Rights Day here in South Africa. But perhaps at this point, it is worth taking a look back at exactly what led to the United Nations declaring this day the International Day of the Elimination of Racism.
Well, of course, Sakina, you are correct. This day, tomorrow, that is the 21st of March, is declared as International Day of the Elimination of Racism. This is because of what transpired here in Sharpeville on the 21st of March, 1960. Immediately after that massacre, the Africa Group, countries from the African continent and Asia at the United Nations, called for an emergency meeting of the Security Council where they raised concerns around the oppression and the system that was brutal, aimed at oppressing black people in South Africa. And they expressed their concern and requested the United Nations to take measures to stop this. And we know that what followed later was that in 1966, then the United Nations General Assembly declared 21 March as the International Day of the Elimination of Racism. And later, in 1973, the apartheid as a system was declared as a crime against humanity. In 1974, South Africa was suspended from the United Nations. Those were the measures taken to try and deal with the oppressive regime that was brutal and killing people in different parts of the country, and the world standing with Africans, blacks who were oppressed in this country. And therefore, then it has been a norm that on the 21st of March at the UN, this day, or the 21st of March, is always observed as a day for the elimination of racism, because you still have pockets of racism around the world.
Pockets of racism around the world, but I think importantly is that we actually look at the progress that has been made to address these challenges of racism and all other forms of intolerance that go along with it.
Well, the world has done a lot to deal with these challenges. We know that we are speaking today, I'm standing here today, South Africa is free, but you still have challenges, particularly to address the imbalances of the past. Around the world, you also have countries that are still struggling. You can look at the continent. When you look at the Western Sahara, still oppressed by Morocco. You can go to the Middle East as we speak. All eyes on Gaza, where you have Palestinians who are fighting for their freedom, and also that has led to a huge conflict there with Israel after the 7th of October last year, where Hamas attacked Israel citizens in those settlements. And therefore, you can see that this issue is still a problem. It might not be the apartheid that you know, but many people have characterized what's happening in the Middle East, in Palestine, as apartheid. And therefore, that is why many countries have rallied behind the Palestinians to say that they deserve to be free like any nation. And we know that you also have challenges in Cuba where you have this embargo by the Americans and therefore people suffering there. So you still have different forms of apartheid in different parts of the world. And that is why tomorrow we will hear messages from around the world. And I think a loud message will be the freedom of the Palestinians, particularly during this time when Israel is continuing with the bombardment in Gaza and Rafah. We saw the Secretary General saying that Rafah has just become a grave site or a graveyard for women and children in particular. We know that there are talks, but it's not clear whether there will be ceasefire. We know that Benjamin Netanyahu has emphasized that he will continue with the fight, and he has also dispatch a delegation to the United States of America to meet the President of the United States of America, Joe Biden, looking at this issue because Joe Biden is really under pressure. And therefore, issues of discrimination, intolerance, and racism do exist in the world.